Hi, I'm Stephanie Taylor, reporter at the National Post's Ottawa Bureau. I'm joined by U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra. Thank you so much for joining us.
It is great to be with you. Thank you.
You come to Ottawa after a pretty historic meeting earlier this week in Washington between your president and our prime minister. Canada is describing this meeting as a restart of the relationship. How would you evaluate the meeting, and would you agree with that assessment?
I thought it was a great meeting. Reaffirming the friendship between the United States and Canada, but a restart or a reset, no way. I spent 18 years in Congress. I was chairman of the Intelligence Committee. I'm well aware, and also coming from Michigan, of the strong economic relationship. From the Intelligence Committee, I'm well aware of the Five Eyes relationship and those types of things. The friendships across the border. I have family that lives in Canada. So you put that all together and say the foundation is phenomenal. We are great friends. We have been great friends for such a long period of time. You're not going to change those personal relationships. You're not going to change those economic relationships. National security they were never in jeopardy. Is it a little bit of a, okay, let's get over what's happened the last 90 days? Yeah, we did that. Okay, but the relationship from my perspective, and I think from the president's perspective, was never in jeopardy.
It does feel like that friendship is going through a little bit of rocky times on the economic front. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, the president has promised the American people in the election, he promised that, there would be a reset on some things, not specifically with Canada, but in our economic relationships with people all around the world. The president campaigned and said in a lot of areas, he strongly believes that America has been taken advantage of, that the trading relationships haven't been fair. So he took a global approach. And when you take a global approach, yes, Canada falls within that. Some of the folks have not liked that approach, but it is what the president campaigned on, and he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
So what can Canada do, or what do you think needs to happen for the U.S. to lift its tariffs on Canada?
Well, we announced, the president is in the process of announcing today a significant trade agreement, one that will happen within the first 110 days of the president being in office. Under his leadership, we're announcing an agreement today with the UK. I think this will kind of be a template for how we go around the world. I haven't seen the details of it yet, but from the preliminary indications it covers automobiles. I think we've got some kind of automobile relationships between the US and Canada. It's going to cover aluminum and steel. Wow, check the box, all right? That's something that we have an economic relationship with Canada. It's going to talk about, supposedly it covers the digital services tax. Well, check the box. That's one of the things that we in America, are interested in taking a look at and discussing with Canada because of the services tax that Canada will be implementing in, I think, at the end of June. What do Canada and America need to do? Do what we've done for a long time. Talk. And I think what you saw on Tuesday with the president and the prime minister is they talked, they listened. I mean, the scrum in the Oval Office, okay, with the media hollering at the president and at the prime minister questions. But when you got into the luncheon, for an hour and a half, you had the president and the prime minister doing what they need to do. They talked, they showed each other a tremendous amount of respect, and most importantly, they listened to each other. Okay, I think the president clearly listened to what the prime minister had to say, and the prime minister clearly listened to what the president had to say. They got a feel for who each one was. They created as much as you can in 2 hours, the beginning of a relationship that I think can be positive, that will go after tariffs. And as the president said, is there any one thing that the prime minister can say today? It's like, no. Is there an agreement that can be had that increases prosperity, safety, and security for both countries? Absolutely. Yes.
So this template, the trade deal the president is announcing today with the UK, that can be a template for Canada?
We'll have to see the specifics, right? We haven't seen the specifics. All we know is they're covering the same issues.
Right. How far, judging from what you saw on Tuesday in your discussions, how far do you think Canada and the U.S. is from striking some kind of a trade deal in this vein that would deal with some of these issues?
Yeah, taking the president's, some of the president's words and also some of the, some of the language that came out during the luncheon, okay? On the 51st state, it takes two to tango. Never say never. Canada's not for sale. Okay, what did we do on Tuesday? We put the 51st state discussion, it's done. Okay, the president clearly acknowledged it takes two to tango. That's behind us. It was never a barrier to discussing these other issues. And so those will be, now begins the framework. I think what happened on Tuesday, getting back to your first question, not a restart, but it allowed us to put behind us some of the last issues, okay? From my standpoint, from the president's standpoint, 51st state's not coming back. The president may bring it up every once in a while, but he recognizes it's not going to happen unless the prime minister engages with the president.
Does the president and his administration understand the effect his comments are having on the relationship with Canada and how Canadians feel when they hear him make that comment, whether they think he's serious or whether they think he's joking, whether they think it's real, whether they think it's wishful thinking? Does he understand the effect those comments have on this relationship in Canadians?
I'm sure he does. The president's a smart guy, okay? From my perspective, and I think the president, that's behind us, okay? Let's start working on the issues that are most important. Let's make sure that we establish a fair, equitable relationship between the U.S. and Canada. And the issues that they talked about. They talked about the economic issues. They talked about fentanyl, okay, which is an issue that both of our countries are very concerned about. The possibility, they didn't use these words, but the possibility of, if we work together on fentanyl, let's make North America a fentanyl-free zone. Canada and America, we're losing way too many of our Canadian citizens and American citizens each and every year to fentanyl. The president wants to stop it, and I think that he saw with the Prime Minister the indications and some of the actions that Canada has already taken, which the Prime Minister outlined as being very constructive in building that partnership. The Prime Minister brought up a commitment to dealing with some of the military obligations and national security obligations that Canada and the U.S. face. So there's some work to do, but it's not like there's this huge chasm that we have to overcome. I think we can get there relatively quickly, but the president's very busy right now, all right? We got the trade agreement with the UK. His team is flying to Switzerland, I think, either today or the next couple of days to have negotiations and discussions with China. The president is going to the Middle East on Monday for a number of conversations, but those things will work, and it's just a matter of getting into it. We're negotiating with Japan. We're negotiating with India, South Korea, Vietnam. There are at least some press reports saying that significant progress is being made in all of those issues.
I guess my last question for now is how much of it is a priority getting a deal with Canada? I mean, the president has a lot on his plate. He's kind of taken a global approach to this issue of tariffs. So resolving things with Canada, where does that fall on his priority list?
Well, it's a priority, but we just started. In that, you just came out of an election, all right? And that, so, there were no discussions going on, but, the president wasn't stopping, okay? The president has an agenda. He has secured our southern border. He's working on this massive tax package, which we think will be good for our economy. He's opened up energy. So he's got a very aggressive agenda, but I think within, 8 days of your election, the Prime Minister is in Washington. He's in a meeting with the President, with the Vice President, with Rubio, our Secretary of State, with Lutnick, our Secretary of Commerce, who's leading the economic discussions, with Greer, our trade representative, and also with Susie Wiles, who he describes as the most powerful woman in the world. So, the president had everybody in the room that needed to be there, and I think that you should, I would look at that and say, wow, it's clear the president sees Canada as a priority. He didn't take 3 weeks or a month or 2 months to have a meeting with the Prime Minister. It happened, before you even have a government that is formed. So it's kind of like, no, I want to get a measure. I think the two leaders wanted to get a measure of each other. They wanted to set a tone and a tenor for their teams to follow, which I thought the tone and the tenor of the meeting was very positive in that it was respectful. The president talked about how much he loved Canada, how he's got friends on both sides of the border. I saw a reciprocation from Mr. Carney. And so, that watching the two interact for 2 hours, I think sent a message to both teams. Time to get to work. Let's get this done.
We'll see what happens next. Thank you for joining,
thank you.
Ambassador, and thank you for watching.